A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinion of sheep, but sometimes even the jungle forgets who the real king is. There's a type of presence that doesn't demand attention. It absorbs it, a vibe that speaks before the man does. That's not loud, but impossible to ignore. That's the Sigma male. Most men talk, some try, a few dominate, but the Sigma, he just is. You see, Sigma males don't walk into rooms looking to prove anything. They're not playing a character. They're not reading a script. They're writing their own, with every step, every glance, every pause. And more often than not, they're far more intimidating than even they realize. Today, Ascenders, we're not talking about typical alpha versus beta nonsense. We're getting surgical with it. These are 14 deep, overlooked and often uncomfortable truths about how Sigma males unsettle the room, not by being loud, but by being too real. Let's break down exactly why your silence, your standards, and your solitude are making people sweat, and why that's a sign you're walking the path right. If you're ready to keep rising in your lane, lock in and subscribe to Sigma Ascends, where the loud don't last, but the focused always rise. 1. The mirror effect. One of the most quietly dangerous traits of a Sigma male is his ability to reflect people's insecurities back at them, without saying a single word. Think about it like this. Most people walk around hiding parts of themselves, regrets, masks, lies they've told themselves for years. And then you show up, calm, observant, silent, and suddenly they feel exposed. Why? Because your presence doesn't distract. It reveals. You don't fill space with small talk. You listen, you watch, and your lack of social fluff throws people into an emotional panic. Why? Because they don't know how to react to someone who doesn't need anything from them. You're not laughing out of politeness. You're not agreeing just to get along. You're not trying to fit in. And that, in a world addicted to validation, is unsettling. You become a human truth serum. People either start spilling their real selves around you or running from it. The truth is, the mirror effect doesn't make you dangerous by action, but by presence. And that's where the intimidation lies. It's not about you being aggressive, it's about them feeling uncomfortably seen. 2. Tension in the room. You don't announce your presence. The energy does it for you. You've probably noticed this without understanding why. You walk into a space and suddenly things shift. Conversations pause. People straighten up. Someone gets quieter, someone else gets louder. Nervous laughter, fake bravado. That's not coincidence. That's psychological static. And you're the cause. Why? Because your energy doesn't seek approval. It confronts the invisible hierarchy. You're not trying to win the social game, you're refusing to play it. And that breaks people who rely on it. In social settings, most people are subconsciously trying to figure out their place in the pecking order. When someone like you walks in, calm, silent, unreadable, it short-circuits that whole system. You're not signaling where you stand, and that forces everyone else to question where they stand. It's not about being a threat. It's about being unplaceable. The tension comes from uncertainty. People can't predict you, and humans fear what they can't classify. 3. Strategic invisibility. You don't always need to be present to have an effect. In fact, your absence often speaks louder than your presence. In a team, a social group, a room, you might be quiet, even overlooked. But remove yourself, and suddenly there's a gap. The conversations feel different, the energy tilts, and people start wondering, where is he? That's strategic invisibility, the power to influence from the shadows. You're not absent because you're weak. You're absent because you're selective, and that alone makes people anxious. Most people are addicted to being seen. You, on the other hand, choose to disappear, and that freaks them out. Invisibility becomes a form of silent leverage. You know when to appear, and more importantly, when to vanish. The people who understand your value will notice the gap. The ones who don't aren't your concern. 4. Zero compulsion to impress. One of the rarest and most unsettling energies a man can carry is this: the energy of someone who doesn't care to impress anyone. The Sigma male has walked through too much fire to care about applause. He's been ignored, underestimated, doubted, and because of that, he's built an inner world that doesn't require external validation to function. That's dangerous, not in a hostile way, but in a deeply unshakable way. When people meet you and realize you're not performing for them, it throws them off. Most people are subconsciously trying to earn approval, to be liked, to be noticed. But you're playing a completely different game. Or rather, you're not playing at all. You're not showing off your success. You're not signaling your value. You're not flexing. And ironically, that's exactly what makes people pay attention. You see, in a world where everyone's trying to be impressive, the one man who simply exists in his truth becomes a threat. Because you force people to realize, maybe I'm chasing the wrong things. This isn't arrogance, it's detachment. You're not trying to be above anyone, you just don't need their applause to feel alive. And that makes you dangerous in a subtle, untouchable way. Because the man who doesn't need the world can't be owned by it. 5. Mysterious origin. Vibe. You walk into a room and people get curious. Not because you said something flashy, but because you didn't say much at all. This is the mysterious origin vibe. You don't overshare. You're not out here trauma dumping or posting your life story in captions. You give people just enough to form a theory and leave the rest in silence. That drives people crazy in all the right ways. Because let's be honest, we live in an oversharing age. Everyone's broadcasting everything: thoughts, moods, meals. And then there's you, private, composed, unreadable. That energy hits different. People start filling in the blanks with their own imaginations. They wonder what you've seen, what you've done, why you're so calm, what made you like this. They project their fears, hopes, fantasies, all onto your blank canvas. And here's the kicker: you know it and still don't give them more. That silence, it holds power. You become the story people can't quite finish. And that's magnetic, because in a world addicted to transparency, mystery becomes the new magnetism. 6. The disruption aura. You don't have to say a word to mess with people's false sense of security. You simply exist in the room, and that alone causes tension. The disruption aura is real. You've seen it. You've felt it. You walk into certain spaces, maybe a workplace, a group, a party, and something shifts. The people who are used to controlling the flow suddenly start stuttering. The loud guy in the room suddenly starts trying harder. The fake leader starts posturing more than usual. Why? Because you are a threat to illusions. You're not disrespectful, you're not confrontational, but you carry truth, and truth, in a world full of performance, is dangerous. People who are built on image, the fake confident types, sense that you're not impressed. They know you can see through the act, and without needing to expose them publicly, you destabilize them privately. That's why some people start acting weird around you. They feel their mask slipping just because you looked at them without blinking. That's why some people talk too much when you're quiet. They feel the silence pointing straight at their bluff. You're not here to ruin anyone's game, but your presence makes it impossible for the game to go on unnoticed. And that's power, not because you used force, but because you forced truth to show its face. 7. Intellectual precision. The Sigma male doesn't talk much, but when he does, his words slice clean. You don't speak to dominate. You speak to clarify, to reveal, to cut through the noise. And that alone is intimidating in a world where everyone's just trying to sound smart. This is intellectual precision. It's not about being loud. It's about saying exactly what matters, no more, no less, and watching the room go quiet. People who thrive on bluff, jargon, and vague confidence crumble in front of someone who speaks with scalpel-like clarity. Why? Because you remove the fog, and without fog, all that's left is truth, and not everyone is ready to face that. Most conversations are cluttered with filler, people rambling, trying to impress, signaling intelligence with big words and hot takes. But you don't need that. You analyze before you speak. You pause. You let silence carry weight. And when you talk, every syllable lands with purpose. That pause before your response, it terrifies some people because it signals thought, not reaction. And thought, in the hands of someone who sees clearly, is dangerous. This kind of sharp communication isn't just intimidating, it's powerful. People lean in, people remember, people second-guess themselves around you, not because you insulted them, but because you forced them to think. That's what precision does. It doesn't shout, it stabs. 8. The silent rejection. You don't need to tell someone they're full of it. You just don't laugh at their bad joke. You don't fake agreement. You don't reward nonsense with your attention. And that's enough to shake them. This is the silent rejection, and it hits harder than 1,000 insults. You see, most people are so used to false validation that when they meet someone who doesn't play along, it feels like rejection. You're not rude. You're just honest, in a quiet, non-verbal way. And that honesty hurts more than words ever could. When someone tries to flex and you stay unmoved, when someone lies and you simply don't respond, when someone tries to bait you and you refuse to bite, that's rejection. Not of them as a person, but of their performance. And that cuts deep. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to argue. Your silence says everything. And the person on the other side of that silence, they feel it in their bones. That's not coldness, that's clarity. You've trained yourself to conserve energy, and you know fake people don't deserve your focus. You reject their nonsense by simply not reacting to it. That's not just powerful, that's dangerous. 9. No need for the spotlight. While others chase attention like oxygen, you move in the shadows, not because you lack confidence, but because you don't need confirmation. This is the anti-performer effect, and it intimidates people more than you realize. The Sigma male isn't trying to steal the show, but paradoxically, the less you try, the more people watch. You walk into a room and observe, not perform. While others raise their voice to get heard, you stay quiet and still command attention. Your calm is loud, your stillness is heavy. This isn't about humility. It's about power, quiet power, the kind that doesn't compete because it's already won internally. People notice that, especially the ones addicted to praise, and they hate it because you remind them that they're still hungry for something you've already fed in yourself. This disinterest in being seen actually makes you more visible. Your refusal to beg for validation shows others just how dependent they still are on it. In a world where everyone wants the mic, the Sigma male doesn't just put it down. He makes people wonder why they ever needed it. 10. You unmask pretenders. You don't out people directly, but your very presence brings out the truth, especially in those pretending to be more than they are. This is the unmasking effect, and it's lethal. The Sigma male doesn't need to call someone fake, because fakes start unraveling just by standing next to you. It's the contrast. You're not polished, but you're real. You're not loud, but you're solid. You're not flashy, but you're focused. And that reveals everything they're not. People pretending to be confident, you expose their insecurity. People pretending to be dominant, You highlight their fear, people pretending to be deep. You show how shallow they really are. And the beauty is, you're not even trying to do this. You just exist. You're grounded. And that makes the ungrounded shake. You've likely had moments where someone acted strange around you for no reason. They got defensive, aggressive, or suddenly cold. That wasn't random. It was the mask slipping. And you were the mirror showing it. That's what makes you intimidating. Not what you say, but what you make people feel about themselves. You don't unmask others to hurt them. You do it just by being unmasked yourself. 11th, immunity to groupthink. Most people are shaped by the crowd. Their opinions shift with trends. Their values bend under pressure. But you stand like a steel rod in a room full of reeds. That's immunity to groupthink, and it terrifies people. You're not the contrarian for attention. You're just not programmable. You listen, you process, and you form conclusions based on reason, not group approval. That makes you hard to influence and hard to control. When everyone is nodding along to a shallow idea, you're the one quietly raising an eyebrow. When the room is celebrating something fake, you're the one questioning it, silently or out loud. And when people notice that you're not conforming, they react in one of two ways, either with curiosity or with fear. Why fear? Because you represent freedom, and freedom scares people who have chained themselves to group validation. Your mind doesn't move in herds. You don't follow trends just to belong. You don't adopt opinions to stay safe. That kind of sovereignty is threatening to insecure minds and deeply inspiring to those ready to break free. You're not trying to be different. You are different because you actually think. And in today's world, that alone is revolutionary. 12. Calm that feels like a warning. There's a type of calm that makes people feel safe. Then there's your calm, the kind that feels like it's holding back a storm. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to threaten. Your calm is the kind that implies, without saying, it's composed, controlled, focused. But behind that stillness, people can feel the capacity for intensity, and that's intimidating. Your calm says, I don't need to flex, but don't mistake this peace for weakness. It's the calm of someone who knows what he's capable of and chooses discipline instead. People who are used to chaos, ego, and drama don't know how to handle that. They're used to loud threats. You're quiet and dangerous. It's like being around an apex predator that's not hungry. Everyone senses the potential, and that alone forces respect. You don't need to show your power. The absence of chaos around you hints at it. You are the stillness that makes the loud reconsider themselves. 13. Unspoken standards. You don't go around demanding respect. You simply behave in a way that makes it the only option. That's the power of unspoken standards. People feel the invisible line around you, and if they cross it, they know they'll feel the shift. You don't raise your voice. You don't explain your boundaries 15 times. You just move different. And that difference carries weight, whether it's the way you walk, how you respond to disrespect, or what you don't tolerate. It all adds up to a presence that commands respect without needing to beg for it. You never ask, do you respect me? You move in a way that says you either do or you disappear. People feel it. They straighten up. They speak more carefully. They avoid stepping out of line, not because you're scary, but because your energy makes it clear. You're not here for games. You don't fight for space. You create space, and people either rise to meet your standard or they remove themselves. 14. You're not easily accessed. You're not hard to reach because you think you're better. You're hard to reach because you're selective. This is the final trait, and maybe the most powerful. You don't give everyone access. and that drives people wild. In today's hyper-connected world, availability is cheap. People overshare, overexpose, and overcommit. But you remain a little distant, a little untouchable. And that energy makes people chase harder, or resent the fact that they can't figure you out. You don't reveal everything. You don't explain every move. You don't hand out emotional access like candy. That doesn't make you cold. It makes you intentional. And intentionality to the wrong people feels like arrogance. To the right people it feels like respect, because they know you don't waste your energy. You're not a puzzle that anyone can solve. You're not a hallway with open doors. You're a locked vault, not hiding something, but protecting something. And in the end, the world doesn't fear what it understands. It fears what it can't decode. You are the mystery that keeps them curious, and the silence that makes the noise nervous. Ascenders. If you've ever felt like people don't know how to handle you, that's not your burden. That's your signal. You're built different. You're wired for solitude, for strategy, for realness. And that makes you unclassifiable. You don't owe the world softness to make it comfortable. You don't owe people versions of yourself that make them feel safe. Let them project. Let them misunderstand. Let them fear. That's not your problem. Your path isn't paved with approval. Your silence is your signal. And your strength? It doesn't shout. It stands. So to every ascender watching this, don't dilute. Don't explain. Don't shrink. Let your presence speak. And if this video sparked something real inside you, subscribe to Sigma Ascends and stay locked in. We're not here to fit in. We're here to rise. Alone if we have to, but never backward. Until next time, stay sharp, stay rare, stay ascending.